Ballentine has been a spiritualist for over 30 years and a professional medium for over 25. She has lived in West Volusia since 1988 and enjoys her time with friends and family, especially her 4 young granddaughters. Ilene enjoys teaching workshops to help people learn how to respond to their life rather than react. She uses her own life's experiences to help people grow and heal. So please join me in welcoming Ilene to the microphone.
Good morning. I want to thank you all for, I speak loud. I want to thank you all for being here today, choosing to get up and get dressed and weather the storm. When I woke up this morning, I was feeling sad because I was getting text after text of people who couldn't come and be here today because of the weather or other commitments or sicknesses. And Spirit said to me, don't focus on who's not here, focus on who is here. And as I look around this room, I see a lot of loving faces. Some I've known, and some I'm just meeting for the first time, so thank you. When I was considering what to talk about for this service, I pictured myself sitting in one of your seats, and I asked myself, if I was in the audience at this church, what would I want to hear? I would want to hear something uplifting and inspiring. So that's how I came up with the subject for today's lecture, which is death and dying. Nice light topic, right? Most people I know don't prefer to talk about death, let alone deal with it, especially in our Western society. In fact, we're so uncomfortable with it that we often medically sedate mourners so they can get through the funeral without upsetting everyone. So why would I consider death and dying to be uplifting and inspiring? Well, you know those cute little posts on Facebook that say, I was such and such years old when I learned this? Well, I was 60 years old, which I am right now, when I learned that everybody's not afraid of death. I just assumed everybody was. Now, how do I know this, you might ask? I was coloring with my 6-year-old granddaughter. And their school was celebrating 100 days of school, and they asked all the kids to dress up like old people. So I asked Maddie, I said, what do you think you'll look like when you're 100 years old? And she was coloring, and she said, oh, Grammy, that is so silly. I will be in heaven and in the sky by then. And just continued coloring. There was no sense of fear. I sat there in total confusion and disbelief. You see, I've been afraid of death ever since, as long as I can remember. I remember as a young child, sometimes I would think, oh, my parents are going to die one day. And I would get so physically ill that I had to plug my ears and say, happy birthday to me, over and over again, just to get my thoughts off of that. And then as I grew older, sometimes I would think that I was going to die, or I would wonder, one of my children could die. And again, I would have that same sick, nauseous feeling. So it wasn't until I started having conversations with the so-called dead that I really started to get some relief when I would contemplate the whole subject. Don't get me wrong. I love being in a human body most days. And I'm in no rush to return to spirit. And that's what I now believe death to be. Just a return home, a return to spirit. Don't take this to believe that I'm happy when I lose loved ones. My father transitioned over 2 years ago, and I still miss him every day. However, I'm also comforted by the visitations. I see him in the bear that rummaged through my trash, and in the butterfly that flies erratically across my pool. My granddaughters see him in the clouds. They see him in the rainbows. The other day, they saw him sitting in a tree holding his wife's hand, my mom. They call out his name when the dining room lights for no reason, flicker. I've had 2 electricians out, and they can't figure it out. But when we're all gathered around the dining room table, the lights flicker. So what was the catalyst for my big change in decision and beliefs? I would have to say that the amount of evidence that spirits have shared with me while doing readings has given me a great deal of relief. But the biggest change in my beliefs came after I was given a profound gift from Spirit. And that's what I'm going to share with you all today. So here goes. Several years ago, I was blow drying my hair when suddenly, and all at once, an entire play was downloaded into my being. Everything, the names, the scenes, the characters, everything. It was so detailed I couldn't even write all the words down, and I still haven't to this day. So what you're going to hear today is just a little teeny glimpse of what Spirit gifted me with, but I think you'll get the picture. The working title for this play is Good News, Bad News, You Choose. Virginia is a 50-year-old woman, which happened very recently, who lives in upstate New York with her husband of 26 years. Together, they've raised 2 daughters who now live in their own houses nearby. They all get together regularly, and on this day, they're together to celebrate Virginia's very recent occurrence of turning 50. As the curtains open, we see Virginia lounging in her luxurious bed. She's just waking and stretching when she hears a car pulling up to her home. She thinks to herself, "This must be the girls coming to whisk me away for a day-long celebration of me." She pulls up the covers and closes her eyes, pretending to still be asleep. The doorknob to her room slowly turns, and both of her daughters enter her room. Virginia can hardly keep herself from jumping out of the covers, shouting, "Surprise!" when something very strange happens. Her daughters walk right past her bed and go to her closet. They seem to be sobbing as they start going through her clothes, finally picking out some outfits and closing the closet doors. Virginia wonders if they think she's not capable of picking out her own outfit for her very surprise celebration of her. Then they do something so bizarre that Virginia pops out from the covers. They start looking through her jewelry box. "Hey there," she bellows. "If you want to borrow some jewelry, it's fine. All you have to do is ask." But there's no reply. They totally ignore her, close the lid to the jewelry box, and leave the room with the outfits on their arm. "What the?" Virginia exclaims, when all of a sudden a bright light bursts through her bedroom window. She rubs her eyes as the light is so bright she thinks it might blind her. After she blinks several times, she's able to see that there's someone with her in her bedroom. She starts to scream, and this being reaches out and touches her hand. It happened so fast that she couldn't stop him. In that moment, Virginia realized that she no longer felt afraid. Instead, a sense of peace and stillness settled over her. Now that she was calm and able to focus, she saw this person, for lack of better words, standing before her was actually glowing. He was short in stature, and he was wearing a jogging suit, high-top sneakers, and he had giant wings on his back. Let's not leave that little detail out. Just then, this being said to her, "Hello, Virginia. I'm sorry to startle you like this. I never know what to say initially, so I let the recently deceased speak first." "The recently what?" Virginia shouted. "Oh, dear, let me start all over. My name is Gabriel, and I'm your spirit guide, guardian angel, death doula." With the news, Virginia fell back onto the bed and began to cry. "I can't be dead. This is some kind of sick joke. I'm only 50 years old and barely that. "Oh, no, it's not a joke. You were in a fatal car crash last night coming home from a birthday celebration dinner with some good friends," Gabriel explained. "But how? But why? But no, no, no. I refuse to believe that I am dead." "Oh, I was hoping it would go better," stated Gabriel, "but I guess I'll just have to prove it to you." With that, Gabriel waved his hand, and he and Virginia were whisked away through the window and into the sky. The next thing she knew, she and Gabriel were in a very large white room with 2 chairs and what seemed to be a very large TV screen. Gabriel told Virginia that this was her review, which is kind of like a debriefing. Before she could say anything, the lights in the room went dark and the TV screen lit up. Gabriel told her to sit back and enjoy the show. The opening scene was of Virginia when she was a baby. She was in her mother's arms, they were in her childhood home, and her mother was rocking her. Virginia began to weep. This made her miss her mother, who had passed several years ago. The movie went on for what seemed to be days and days, but somehow Virginia knew that time was different here. There were scenes from her whole life, good ones, bad ones, sad ones, and some that just seemed to be very ordinary days. When the movie finally stopped, Gabriel asked Virginia if she had any questions. She said she had one. Am I really dead, or am I losing my mind? And if I'm losing my mind, is there some sort of sanity clause that I can plead? Gabriel perked up, his face was gleaming. He cleared his throat and said, "Why, yes, Virginia, there is a sanity clause." He chuckled and said, "Do you have any idea how long I've waited to say that line?" Virginia was not amused. "Before you started the review of my life, you said I should sit back and enjoy. But how can I enjoy any of this, knowing that I am dead?" "Oh, I did it again. I buried the lead, pardon the pun," Gabriel said apologetically. "Let me back up the film to before you were born," he said. All of the scenes flashed across the screen, this time backwards and very, very fast. It went all the way back to Virginia's birth, and then the movie suddenly and abruptly stopped. At this point, Gabriel pointed his finger to the screen and scrolled back from her birth. The next scene on the screen was of Virginia and Gabriel. Although she looked different, she knew it was her. In this scene, Virginia was about to step off a platform, with Gabriel standing behind her. She looked back at him and said, "Wait, what if I'm not ready to be a human again? What if I change my mind? What if I want to stay here in spirit?" With that, Gabriel gave Virginia a little push on the back, and as she propelled towards Earth, she heard him say, "Don't worry, it's only a 50-year assignment. You'll be back here in no time." Epilogue. After some time, Virginia finally accepted that she was, in fact, in the spirit world. It was then that she noticed a feeling of excitement and anticipation. She started to think about all the people she loved who were already in spirit. Suddenly, the walls of the room disappeared, and she was surrounded by loving spirits. First, her mother and father came and embraced her. Virginia felt an overwhelming sense of love and joy fill her entire being. Then she looked around, and there were dozens of people she knew. Some were very close to her when she was a human, and some were just casual acquaintances to her at least. You see, we never really know how our words or actions can affect others, and how we are all truly connected. As she continued looking around, she noticed that all these spirits glowed with a sense of peace and joy, and their laughter and delight made it seem as though they were at a celebratory party. Reading her thoughts, Gabriel whispered to Virginia's ear, "They are celebrating, and it is a party. It's your homecoming party. And one day, you'll be joining them to welcome your husband and daughters and all of your loved ones home as well. In the meantime, Virginia, have the time of your afterlife." The end. Thank you.